Guys, can you hear me? Guys, can you hear me? What is that noise in the background? Hey, everybody. What is that noise in the background? Joseph Chishimba says loud and clear, we are here. Thank you so much. There's too much ceiling. Every time I show my ceiling, somebody always sends me a message and say, Mr. Mwewa, that is a very shoddy job. I can do a better job than that. Well, to be fair, that's a very old ceiling. And I think it's like 5, maybe 6 years old. Well, the truth is, I do have to change it. Guys, hop on here real quick and let's see if we can get the show on the road. I'm over here at Simason Building in my office, and there's something I'd like to share with you guys. I need a haircut. I need to go to the barber. The very latest tomorrow, I need to do this. There's something I need to share with you that I know is going to help someone, but at the same time, it may just land with a hollow thud because, you know, Zambia being what it is, what I'm about to share with you has happened to countless people. But at the end of the day, people just listen to it and say, oh, okay. You know, very, very little is done about this. And I think it's one of those deals that, if not addressed and addressed quickly, and I've seen it happen. Not only have I observed it being happened, it recently happened to me. And because it happened to me, I feel it very incumbent upon me to share it with you so that you understand the severity of it. Now, I do know that there is a sect, there is a remnant of people on here, on this platform, that will dismiss this and say, Simon, you know what, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Well, the reason you say that is because it didn't happen to you. So here it is. Many of you know that for a long time we've been advocating, we've been pushing not only the previous government, but the current government. We've been egging them on. Look, this new Simon Mwewa Lane market, it has to be opened. We don't know what the delay is. We don't. You know, and for those of you that really must know the history of this market, Vincent Mwale had to solicit, he had to sort of ask outsiders for money to fund this project. There was no budget line for this market. Vincent Mwale got a few sort of investors and people that put money together and built this market. Now, of course, it's under DMMU, of course. And of course, Vincent Mwale was the then Minister of Local Government at that time. And it's been dragging for years. Oftentimes I hear people say, you know, if this was in China, the Chinese would have built this in a week. It would have been operational in a week. But here it is, 4, 5, 6 years down the line, we're still grappling with an edifice that is not 100% complete. I will tell you, the market is 95% done. It is that 5% that, if not dealt with and dealt with expeditiously, will remain unfinished. We know the way things are in Zambia. When you just leave it and no one is there to make noise about it, it will just be like that. You know, and it shouldn't be that way. If you've got a market that's 90% done, 95% done, and there is a 5%, a paltry 5% that needs to be complete, guys, mobilize the funds, circle the wagons around this issue. The truth is, I'll be honest with you, I wish they could sell the thing. I really do. I wish they could sell it to a private investor who would pump in the money and take care of it as a not only a going concern, but just take care of it as a commercial property. Oftentimes markets in Zambia are politicized, and because they're politicized, they don't make a profit. They don't. It just becomes a chimarket. The way city market is just a chimarket. You know, it's just a market. The thing makes so much money, but because it's not run properly, it's just a chimarket. So at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that this edifice, this new Simon Mwewa market, if not handled properly, if not managed properly, in the next 3 to 4 or 5 years, it'll just be a chimarket. So let me go back to what has happened. And in order for you to understand what I'm talking about, I have to go back to the time when Lusaka City Council moved the vendors from Lumumba Road. Remember, there was a time that council sent out a decree, Kuti, Lumumba Road has to be emptied of vendors. So the vendors left Lumumba Road, and instead of them going into the markets, they began to come to Simon Mwewa Lane. You know, very slowly they started seeping and bleeding into the road. And we kept on telling the council, we said, look, you have to be heavy-handed. The way that you've removed the vendors from Lumumba Road, you have to remove them from here. Because if you give them a safe haven, Haven, a safe place on this street, there's going to come a time when you will not be able to remove them. So if you've removed them from Lumumba Road, it stands to reason that they should not be allowed to operate on Simon Mwewa Lane. Make sure that they go into the markets. Lusaka City Council didn't do that. Lusaka City Council simply said, no, actually, Mr. Mwewa, those vendors who are moving on the Simon Mwewa Lane, they will only be there temporarily. Now, I've worked with council long enough to know the moment a councilman, the moment a councillor, a mayor, anyone in council uses the word temporary, that's code for permanent. Anytime a city official, a councillor, anytime any one of these people uses the word temporary, we should it's permanent. Because that's just the name of the game, you know. And when they said to me, they said, no, Mr. Mwewa, actually, it's just temporary. And when the market finishes, all these people are going to move into the market. So the road can work. Now, the complaint we have as the business community is that we come to work under very difficult circumstances. You will not appreciate this if you don't work here. If you don't work in this area, if you don't operate within this vicinity, what I'm talking about is nonsense to you. But for those of us who wake up in the morning, we drive here, it is an up at dawn, pride swallowing siege that I will never fully tell you about. Okay? It is daunting. It's daunting because when you're driving down this Simon Mwewa Lane, it's hell. It's a nightmare. You can't get to where you're going because the whole street is full of vendors, full of traders, full of ballas. You can't get through, full of buses. And then here recently, council announced, Kuti, no, we want to put a perimeter fence around the market. So we need to bleed into the road so that we put the fence. The directive was, as we are installing, meaning the council, as the council is installing the perimeter fence, the vendors are to move to give way to the workmen, to the people who are working on the fence to install it properly. I was sure. I want to I know that road and all that. So they had to place the fence while the vendors were operating on the street. Now, here was the challenge. Not only did they push the fence slightly, it was about, how big was that? It was about 2.5 meters from the market onto the road. They ate 2.5 meters into the road to put the fence. And then now, from this point further into the road, the vendors put their stands. In other words, after the fence was installed, the vendors made the road even smaller. They made the road even narrower. It was narrow to begin with, without the fence. But when they put the fence, the road became narrower. So effectively, this Simon Mwewa Lane is now just turned into a one-lane street. And you have to drive very, very carefully. Now, this is what happened to me, and this is what I want to share. As you're coming, and for those of you that are visitors here, all of my visitors, they say the same thing. I'll never forget when Dr. Yvette, she's a famous doctor over there at UTH. I had an interview with her. She said to me, it was a nightmare coming here. She said, I was so scared that my car would be scraped or this, that, and the other. She, very concerned. And that's something that we grapple with. So the other day, I'm driving down the road, and I'm always careful because I'm from here. I've been here for 37 years. I know the topography perfectly. I know the system. The way things are here, if you're driving down Simon Mwewa Lane and you just you just bump into a vendor's stand, or you drive accidentally over a vendor's shoes, mawe ninkondo bwana. Hey, kapto mwauna. Hey, mwatona wide katundu. Hey, chala. They make a big deal out of it. They will not let you go. So I know that system. Okay, so I drive very, very carefully. And this is one of the reasons there was a time I was using Yango a lot because I didn't want to deal with that. And that's the truth. I just didn't want to deal with that. I would rather just sit in a car and be driven somewhere, not worry that I'm going to hit someone or knock over someone's goods and all that nonsense. But anyway, so the other day I'm driving, I'm leaving the premises, I'm leaving the property, Simoson. I'm driving out and I'm always careful, as I said, and I'm driving very slowly because on this street, on Simon Mwewa, you cannot do 40, 50 kilometers. You can't even do 20. You cannot, because it is chock-a-block, mate. It is just absolutely clogged. Okay, so you drive extremely slowly. So here I was, driving, and I'm doing my thing, and I'm doing maybe 5, literally, I'm crawling down the road. And all of a sudden, this woman, she jumps in front of the car, and then she falls to the ground. And right there in that moment, the people here started screaming, Chitambala punko muntu. Elio kuno, ngabamfafeti chitambala. My goodness. Achitashani, atia punko muntu. Lekeni tualambu melapo. Ati achitashani, chitambala na punko muntu ko. Now, of course, because I know the system here, I was calm. I knew what to do. And I just sat there because, when that happens and the word goes around, your car is surrounded. It's inevitably surrounded by young men, vakabolala, fingwangwazi, vijanki, it is in that confusion that they want to rob you, they want to vandalize your car and all that. But I was calm. I knew the gist. I knew what was going on. So I just sat there. And the woman apparently was on the ground. And of course, I didn't hit her. I did not hit her. In fact, if anything, I think what happened was, as I was moving slowly, she stepped in front of the car. When the car sort of came into close proximity with her arm or something, she flung herself onto the ground. And you know, they gathered around and they started screaming, "Hey, why payo muntu wachitambala iwe? Twala chitoba chimotoka chove." And you know, I know all these guys, and I knew they wouldn't do that. They were just trying to sound intimidating. So I very calmly rolled down my window, and let me give you a tip. In a case like that, when that happens to you, never step out of your car, ever, because they will just rub you. Okay, and they'll harass you and all. So I sat there and I slightly rolled down my window, and I very calmly, I said to one of the guys standing next to my window, I said, "Well, just pick her up and put her in my car." So, you know, a couple of guys and a couple of ladies, they went to the front there, you know, they picked her up and they brought her to my side of the car. And it was a young woman, maybe she was about 30, 35. You know, they opened the door, and I said, well, I asked them, I said, "Open the door, you know, go ahead, open the door." And I said, "Put her in the seat." So they bring this lady in. I looked at the young girl. I knew everything that was going on. I just looked at her and I said, "Just put her in the car, you know." So they placed her in there. I said to the guys, I said, "Close the door, you know, just close the door." So they closed the door. And then I said to the guy next to my window, I said, "Okay, I'm going to take this girl to Kanyama Hospital. Okay? Everything's fine. We're going to be okay. We're going to get through this." So that guy standing next to my window, he said to the crowd, he says, "No, baram tuarum kashano yo, baram tuarum kuchipatara, so tapali furubene pano, chirifie, it's okay. Baram tuarum kuchipatara." So, you know, I start driving. And in a case like that, you never sort of try to speed off or anything. You just, you know, calmly, I just drove very slowly, you know, out of that situation. And then I took a right onto Katondo Street, you know, and then I got to the end of, no, sorry, not Katondo Street, Ben Bala Road. Ben Bala Road. I took a right on Ben Bala Road and very slowly drove. I got to the end, and then I took a left onto the Kalushawalia Road. So, you know, I'm driving, and the girl is sitting next to me. Ale tutuma no kututuma. It's na faine manjipaya. Katwishi nkenda na futi na chapwene na alemana. Ubu five wake. Kana libeshiba wakashada. So I'm driving, you know, I'm doing my thing, you know, and I got on the phone, and I called a doctor that I know at Kanyama Clinic. And I said to the doctor, I said, "Hey, listen, I'm bringing in a patient. She says I knocked her over. I didn't. I think she sort of embellished a bit. She stepped in front of my car and fell forward and stuff. But I think she's going to be okay." So I said to the doctor, I said, "I'm going to bring her in. I'll be there in 5 minutes." He said, "Sure, bring her down, you know." So as I'm driving to the hospital, I'm not speaking to the girl. I'm just driving, you know. I'm even listening to music. And I think I had Michael Jackson's Earth Song on, you know, and I was singing along, you know. And then finally she calmed down because I didn't want to, you know, I didn't want to feed into her frenzy. That's a good one. I didn't want to feed into her frenzy. I didn't want to lend legitimacy to her exaggerated experience. I just pretended I wasn't listening to what she was doing, you know. So I'm singing Michael Jackson's Earth Song, you know. And as I approach Kanyama Hospital, I turned to the girl and I said, "Are you okay?" And she looks at me. Then she goes into the act again. I looked at her and I said, "You're going to be fine. You're going to be okay." So, you know, I pull into the hospital, you know. The doctor friend of mine, you know, he came out, you know, and I said to my friend, I said, "This is the lady." He asked what happened. I narrated the story. When I told the doctor, I said, "Oh no, I think she just stepped in front of the car and she fell." And the young girl says, "Ah, where? Vachimpunka ine shakende na futi chapwa ine na lemana." I looked at the doctor. I said, "Don't listen to her." I said to the doctor, I said, "Look, if whatever you need, if she needs X-rays, if she needs whatever it is, you just give her the full treatment. I'll take care of it. Just let me know what it is." The doctor said, "No problem, we'll take care of it." So, they brought a wheelchair out for her, took it to the other side they opened the door and then they helped her out of the car and onto the wheelchair and they wheeled her out. And I said to the doctor, I said, "Listen, I'll call you back in about half an hour and give me a brief." He said, "Sure." So, I had to drive back to the spot where it happened. And the reason I did that was because I had to sort of indicate to the people that witnessed that accident that, look, she's fine. So I went back there and I said, "I've taken her to the hospital. She's going to be fine." So, and then I had to leave again to go to where I was originally meant to go. So I did my thing. I ran my errands, and about 2 hours later, the doctor calls me and says, "Mwewa, uyu mkashano uyu, na tumchita examine, na tumchita X-ray. Adifia. Nothing is broken, nothing is fractured. She seems to be in a bit of discomfort, so we've given her a bit of pain, some painkillers." I said, "Is that it?" He says, "Yeah, that's it." I said, "Is there anything else?" He said, "No, it's fine." So I said to the doctor, I said, "Well, could you put her on the phone?" So, she the doctor gives the girl the phone and she gets on the phone and I said, "Mami, so murife wino def? X-ray imbirebe pafie. Pantinete tinjende." I said, "You're going to be fine." So I said, "Nala mitumina ko 200 kwacha. I'm going to send you $200, for your transportation. And the doctor's going to give you some painkillers. And I think we've closed this chapter." Nala isa ku office nganafuma kuno. What if bantu bushikunga nindala? Ene ndefo kuimokuya ku toilet na afilwa na alaya shiadi. I said, "You're going to be fine." Okay, so I hung up the phone. A day later, I'm sitting in the restaurant at Simoson Building. I'm in a meeting. I'm in a meeting with one of my clients, one of our tenants here. And this lady walks up to me. She She just walks up to me very aggressively and she shoves a paper in my face. At first I didn't recognize her. I said, "What's this?" She goes, police. She says, the police want you. Then I looked at her, then I realized who she was. And she was standing right in front of me. So I take the little document, I look at it, and I say, "What's the problem?" Because awe, baka pokora, na fuma kuri baka pokora, va fuma bunje bainati. Dia bakupungire. Ba mwewa baringiro kuleta kuno fest, kuno ku police. Nga bakuleta kuno, twamuna situation, ela bakutwala kuchipatara. Basically she was saying that when she went to the police said to her what should have happened after Mr. Mwewa bumped into you, which didn't happen. He should have brought you first to the police and then subsequently thereafter taken you to the hospital. So I said to the lady, I said, "Well, what would you have me do? What did you want me to do? You wanted me to take you to the police first? I mean, you were screaming and you were screaming bloody murder. You were talking about your leg being amputated and how you would never walk again and how this was the end of the road for you in terms of mobility and what did you want me to do?" I mean, the only thing I could do at that time was to very quickly and expeditiously take you to the nearest hospital, which is what I did. And I provided you with all the, yo, wakapokona wakani if your fiance, if you, Vati denga mwantwele first ku polisi, ele mwantwala kuchipata. Then I looked at her and I said, okay, what do you want from me now? Kabidi wale mfuaya. Wale mfuaya wakapokola. Ele ngata mwaye, panoshile fumapo. She says, the police want you, and if you don't go there, I'm not leaving Simoson. I said, look, that's fine. Take a seat there. As soon as I'm done with this meeting, I'll attend to you. So I did my meeting thing, you know. I was there for maybe 15 minutes. I get up, I turn around, she's right in front of me. And she says to me, she says, so, mwewa, it's either, pano mwampera fiem pia, or tulia ku police. I said, and which is what I knew, because I know it's all about money. It's never about anything else. So I said, so this is about money? She says, ine panondi, kunga ndobunga takudi, abana tabadide, bantu yesterday, I spent the whole day ku hospital, tapaya finashe, tapadi na mfe wanu ngwe pano, elio nshidena makasa pano, shidena bas, I just came specifically for you. So I mwewa ngata mwampere fina mfe, 1 pin 5, between 1 pin 5 na 2 pin, ine shamideke. Tuala ala fi wonse, na ala mikonka kunga ndoko kuina muikala oko, ele oku muikala na alishibako. Abarmende bali njeba. Nde mikonka. I looked at this girl and I said, honey, that's not going to work, okay? So if you want to go to the police, let's go to the police. I am not giving you any money. I'm not paying you any money. And the very fact that you've mentioned money says to me, the very last thing I ever want to do is to give you any more money. She looked at me and she said, mwewa, your problem is that you're so stubborn. You are just a stubborn man. I'm going to the police now, and they're going to tell me what to do about you. She stormed off. Mane, this is the reason this road needs to be clear. This is the reason. We will always have these issues. As long as this road is treated, Lusaka City Council have neglected this road. Local government has neglected this road. Councillors, for the past 5-6 years, they've neglected this road. In fact, this Simon Mwewa Lane was considered a dump site, a haven for rejects. Lusaka City Council is in the habit of saying, no, remove the vendors from Lumumba, but allow them on Simon Mwewa Lane. It's almost as if they're saying, just dump them there. But you don't know the disruption that you cause for this business community. Not just Simoson, because some of you, you start saying, no, Mwewa, you're selfish. Simoson is not the only building on Simon Mwewa Lane. You must understand that. There are so many businesses here that have no voice. They cannot talk. Their businesses are being destroyed. Why? Because the street vendors are encroaching. They are blocking their doors. No one can enter their shops. Why? Because vendors are blocked. Nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that. So my appeal to local government, Lusaka City Council, move these vendors into the market so that this road can work. So that we can drive through the road uninhibited, unblocked, unfettered. Do you understand that?